Step into my circle with the opposite of Urkel. When I pull up flying purple, people eaters couldn't bite me. I sealed the fate of Herschel. And I just leave them on the limb and hand them my business. These rappers are walking that I already killed them. Skin blanco, lyrical weapon kicking like a bronco. Head honcho, spherical presence came from the grotto. A dead rapper, rap his body in a poncho. And crack his melon with a combo like pronto.
Hey, this is Barry Odell coming at you live from the Hustle's Corner, New York City, saying thank you for joining us. In this part 3 of our session with Thomas Freeme, we talk about his upbringing in his family and how racism was subliminally embedded into him as a child, especially with his interactions with his father. But we also talk about a shocking truth within the African American community that desperately needs to be discussed. So hold on to your seats. This one's going to be a bit of an intense one. It's going to be a bumpy ride. So once again, thank you for joining us. And as always, don't forget, hit that like button, leave a comment, share, and most of all, subscribe. Thank you and enjoy the show. The whole purpose behind the Hustle's Corner and podcasts like yours is to find alternatives, is to find, look, okay, you came out of the prison system. They won't hire you because of your record. They won't give you a break or shot, even though you've learned something there. They won't, here's another alternative. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Like, you always have to look at the other side, you know? You always have to look at the other side. There's a book that I recommend that everybody in the world reads, you know? And it's called Black Athena. Black Athena was written by Martin Bernal, a Jewish guy, and he attacked back in the 80s. This whole Black Athena, he attacked the European model as far as the Greek invented the alphabet and trade and all of these things, right? The persecution that, of course, came under him for attacking this European model, because now he's showing archaeological evidence that all of that came from Egypt. The Egyptians were the first one to create the alphabet, and the Egyptians were the one that traded with the Greeks and taught the Greeks these things, right? So the 3-book series or 6-book series, I think it is, lays out the whole timeline of the beginning of time, the beginning of trade routes, how they all routed. He lays out his argument, and he defines and explains how racism came into being. We weren't always racist. Black Athena, yes. Must read. That is a must read.
Thank you. I'm definitely going to be adding that to my library. Yes. No doubt about it.
That's a must read, because, and the point of that is because we're taught the European model. We're not taught any other model. We're just taught that the European model is, and that's the truth, and there's nothing else that we need to know. Right. And that's not the truth, right? You know? Right. And that's exactly what you said, Perry. We have to be able to look at the other side fairly and unbiased and make an opinion from that. I can't make an opinion that's going to guide my life just off one side of the spectrum. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm just going to be making left turns my whole life.
Right.
There's nothing to help me make a right turn. You see what I'm saying?
That's the purpose. That's one of the main purposes behind the Hustle's Corner. It is for us to present these truths to help you get into perspective exactly not only what you've been through, but why you've been through it, and then find an alternative. We understand. And the thing is that when we talk to people like you, again, we find so much common ground. It's like, you know, when you said that, you know, your father was controlling, who does that sound like to you, Jeanette?
I won't say his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
But also my father too. My father was very uncontrolling. Coming up. Yeah. That's why I asked you about your childhood, because a lot of times we act out from the childhood how we've been treated. And then, believe it or not, a child grows up, they go ahead in that direction and commit crimes because of the behavior behind home, you know, at home. You know, it's the way they've been mistreated.
You know, my father asked me a question about 5 months ago, You know, I'm 45. My father
Look
asked
good.
me. Thank you. So my father asked me. He says, "Son, what drew you to the Black community as much as you are?" The shocking question behind that. Now, this is an 82-year-old man, you know, and I'm the only one in the family that really associates with Black people the way that I do. I treat Black people like they're me, because they are.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
right.
I just treat them.
Absolutely.
But the point of that is, I don't want to say that my family is outwardly racist, right? But like I say, and I tell people, and some people have a problem with it, but it's just facts. If they can argue with me, they can argue with me. But all white people have racism in them, right? And it's till you recognize this racism that's been put in you, you're able to make a conscious choice after that. But because of this world domination, this world script, if you will, you know, it's automatically ingrained in us, you know, as a child. There's a show on my podcast, an episode on my podcast, the Life of an American Woman, and it's like she says that when she was a child on a farm, she got in trouble for hanging around. She got in trouble in a school with a little Black girl, right? And she got whooped twice. She got whooped for getting in trouble in school, and she got whooped for hanging around the Black girl. As little white children, that's what we're taught subliminally. My father used to tell me when I used to hang around with my Black friends, he would tell me, you know, if you keep laying with dogs, you're going to get up with fleas. I didn't understand what he meant, right? But it was these subliminal type messages, right, that ingrain in us. You see, so now as I'm getting older and I'm associating with Black people or whatnot, they're my friends, you know, and they're cool. For me, it's I've always seen truth in it. And Black people, just being around them, I knew internally that I was getting the truth from my Black friends, from their grandmas, from, you know what I mean, from the elders of the Black community. I was hearing what the truth was. And what it was is it was opening my eyes to things that within me that I didn't even realize I was doing. Things like this. Forgive me for using this here, but it's just as an example. I used to always, because my father worked on the cars, he used the word a lot. So this was just a word I picked up, you know, and I never stopped to think about what I was saying. I'm just using this word because to me, my association to it was things that were not put together very well. If my father was fixing a radio or something, he would say, you know, well, this is the problem right here is, well, what does that mean, Dad? Well, that means that the wires were just put together. They weren't put, it was a sloppy job, things like that, right? So it never even dawned on me until I used that word with a Black man. And it happened to be inside, and I was working on his radio. This is how life goes in a circle, man, I'm telling you. And you have to pay attention to these signs, right? So now I'm the one working on the radio, and I'm using it. And now when I say it, the Black man, he looks at me and he says, now this is a guy that I pal around with for most of the day. And he already knows, because he jeffs with me all the time about me being racist and this and that. But I've never used that word in front of him until now. So when I said that, he looked at me and he's like, what did you just say? And I said, man, you know, your radio's, you know, this, that, and that. He's like, but what is it again? So then, because he knows, but he's seeing how conscious I am of it. I'm not conscious of it at all. So once then he asked me, he goes, well, what does that word mean? What does that mean? Then it hit me. As I'm explaining it, right? Well, it means that it was put together half-assed. Then it hit me. I'm like, oh, damn, man. You know, I said, I've been using that word my whole life. I said, I've never even realized that I've been offending people, that I've been hurting people. I've been offending people. And I didn't even know the proper pronunciation of that. So I said, well, what do you call this here? He said, well, you call it jerry-rigged or you know, whatever. But and from then, that's when I use, you know, so it's these subliminal things that we have inside of us that we walk around offending people all day long without even realizing that we're offending people. I believe that all of us do have racism in us until we become conscious of those subliminal evils that we have in us, you know, those subliminal devils. I think Perry said, you know, some people look at us like we're white devils, you know, and we all have devils in us. It's just some are conscious and some are unconscious, you know.
See, now let me stop right there. When it comes to the term white devils, when it comes to the term of you know, white people being, you know, of Satan, it's hard for me to accept that
when I see what goes on in the planet. When I see so many of us, how demonic so many of us can be, it's hard. But what I do see is that same mentality, that same spirit underlying both communities, whatever choices or actions that they do. It's hard to call white people the devil when you got brothers out here, bro. In the last 10 to 20 years, there have been something like, how many times have I told you this, Jeanette? How many serial killers have come out of the Black community? They're serial killers, bro. These are serial killers. They think nothing of taking another person's life. It's just that too many times it happens to be our lives that they take. You can't tell me that's being better than a racist. It's not. It's not. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. You can't tell me, like the time that I had told you, Jeanette, of the guy that I think I had mentioned this to you also, Thomas, of the brother that had that forced his girlfriend to watch as he decapitates the heads of her children. What type of mentality is that? That sounds the same to me like the mentality of Dylan Roof. That sounds exactly the same, if you ask me. I could be wrong, but I don't see any difference between those two mentalities. And then when you see what's happening to guys like Pop Smoke, who just got killed, or Nipsey Hussle, or you have the jealousy epidemic. I see the same thing in the white community. I see an extreme level of jealousy there. Mm-hmm. It's directed at us, but I've also seen it directed against your own.
Mm-hmm. You know why, Perry? Because it doesn't make a difference, partner. It doesn't make a difference at all. Mm-mm. You know, and that's what I say. When you this goes back to what we were saying from the beginning. Like once you attain knowledge, you can't unattain it. You know, you can't unknow something, right? Mm-hmm. So for me to know and understand, because I've read a couple little books, right? So all it takes is just to read a couple little books, you know. I understand, okay, why are Black people Black? Because they have melatonin. Their melatonin is a lot more richer than white people. Why? Because it was an environmental adaptation over time, you know. When you understand the science behind these things, you understand like it does. Melatonin has no effect on a person's IQ, on their motivation, on any physical attribute other than protection from the sun. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's true.
When you know that, how can you argue anything else? How can I look at you, Perry, and think of you any less than me, right? Just because I know that your melatonin is a little more richer than mine.
This concludes this session of the Hustle's Corner in New York City. If you are a person that's incarcerated and you have books that you'd like to get out and you want to share your story, come share your story on the Hustle's Corner in New York City, Tales from the Big Cities. If you are a person who has been wrongfully convicted of a crime that you did not commit and you want to share your story, come share your story on the Hustle's Corner in New York City, Victims of the System series. If you are a person who has been self-reformed, active in the community, came out of a past nefarious life,
to a more positive one and you want to share your story, come share your story on the Hustler's Corner New York City Legends of the Hood series. If you are a Black business owner and you want to share your story of how you got your business off the ground and how you faced many challenges to succeed, come share your story on the Hustler's Corner New York City Black Business Movement series. If you are a musician or an artist or a vocalist or a rapper, hip hop artist, and you want to share your story about your career and how you have grown it into success, come share your story on the Hustler's Corner New York City On the Grind series. And if you are a woman who has been through traumatic times in her life only to overcome them, come share your story on the Hustler's Corner New York City Lipstick Stories series. And if you're enjoying the show, please help us grow. Show your love. Like, share, leave a comment, and most of all, subscribe. Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you again. This is Perry Elder from the Hustler's Corner, New York City. Peace. Send them all now. Got a Navy man in my field, we target everybody, not everybody has a haven.